Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for the latest episode of The Mandalorian, Chapter 19, The Convert. And I overall liked and enjoyed this episode, though the best parts for me were with Din, Grogu, and Bo-Katan in the beginning and the end. Even though I liked what they did in the middle with Dr. Pershing, I think that its inclusion is going to need to be better integrated into the story because it just kind of came out of nowhere. I mean, it delivers very important stuff to Star Wars lore and also to the characters that we've seen before within the Mandalorian series. But its integration in this episode just felt like a momentum stop to the plot. Whereas we still get things going on with Bo-Katan and Din, and mainly in the end, which was like, ooh, we'll see how this goes. So, we'll have to see how important the middle portion of this is to the plot as the series goes on. Though, granted, we only have 5 episodes left. Let me see here. Yeah. Let's get that there. Yeah. Okay. So, we pretty much start off, we see Grogu being like, Dad, you okay? And Din being like, yeah, we all right here? He's like, yep. And he's like, alright, I did it. And Bo-Katan asks him if he saw anything down there. He was like, I guess like after the bombing and everything, it kind of made everything deeper, but he didn't see anything with the mythosaur. And Bo-Katan holds this back. It's like, why are you holding that back? And that kind of gets me to like the end portion that I'll get to, that we'll have to see what her kind of motivations are for what she starts to kind of do, because the interesting thing is you start seeing that she doesn't take her helmet off throughout this episode, and we'll see kind of if seeing the mythosaur has like really awakened her and has her going towards the Mando's way, or if she's using this as her own kind of power play to grab control of the like Children of the Watch. We'll see how that kind of goes. So they pretty much get themselves together. They get onto the ship, and they pretty much are like on their way back to Kalevala, and then they start getting beset by TIE interceptors. It's like, shit. And this is where the effects are usually pretty good, though there's some kind of weirdness that goes on when they're in certain kind of canyon stuff when they get back to Kalevala. But they're like, shit, like we're in a dogfight scenario and it's done pretty well. Bo-Katan really showing off her flying skills and everything. And they're pretty much coming up with a plan. It's like, alright, get us back to your place. I'll drop in and I'll get onto the ship and provide you cover. And it's funny, they like end with like a "this is the way" thing, and then Grogu does like a burbling thing, and they all Bo-Katan and Din turn and look at him, and I think he said "this is the way" as well in his own kind of language, which is kind of cool. At least that's the impression I got. So it's like, all right, Grogu, all right. So we're getting some kind of cool dodging and everything. We see that Din pretty much just like gets himself in, gets into his starfighter, and is able to blow out one of the TIE interceptors, and talking about how they're kind of like better off than the original TIE fighters. And the thing is, they have to be pretty close to wherever they're at. So we get them taking out one by one, some really cool kind of flying before they're pretty much driving back to Bo-Katan's home. But then we see bombers, and they just bomb and destroy the place, and she's pissed off and she's ready to go after them. But Din's like, we got other bogeys. There's more here. And he's able to get her to hold back before we see even more TIE interceptors come after him, and they jump to a place that's safe. And that's where we get the cutoff before we shift to Coruscant. And then it's pretty much like, I can understand if somebody gets bored with this and is like, I'm not interested in this. And the episode does not do a good job of pulling you into this. This either needed to be its own entire episode that drew you in more effectively and presented this plot as why it was kind of important, because from the way it leads off, you think that Din and Bo-Katan for some reason decided to go to Coruscant and they're not in here at all. They go from this point to the convert that the Mandos, the other enclave, are at. Oh, Din also brought up and has a sample of the living waters as well. That's an important plot point, making sure I get that down. So, we are at Coruscant. We're getting, the effects on this are pretty nice. It's the dogfighting where certain kind of canyon ones, the ties are a little bit weird, so it could have been streaming, it could have been the effects. I give it kind of a benefit of the doubt. It's not like completely and utterly horrendous, and it didn't completely take me out of the dogfight. The dogfight was like really fucking good. So I'm like, just some spots here and there. So we see that Dr. Pershing is actually in the kind of opera house place that we see in episode 3. So I'm like, that's a nice kind of callback and fan service. And we see that he's talking to a group and pretty much trying to explain why, what was kind of going on and what he kind of does. And that his mother was a doctor and that she died because her heart gave out. There was a problem with her heart. And the thing is, if they had the availability of like flash cloning organs, she would have survived. So that got him into the cloning field. And from the work of the Kaminoans, he kind of goes and had been doing that kind of stuff in genetic modification and all that, and he's sorry that his research was used to such kind of destructive ends for the Empire, but he's trying to turn that around and work with the Republic. And that is the core conceit of his section, along with Kane's. How, after fighting and defeating an organization like the Empire, do you reintegrate the people from the Empire into, like, the New Republic? And that would have been fascinating in and of itself to be a movie, a TV show, a lot of things, books to dive into. How, because not everybody in the Empire was evil. Most of the people at the top, and then, of course, scattered throughout the organization, are people that will abuse their power to be evil and do horrible, horrendous things, all for the twisted sake of doing good. And that's a cool thing to explore. We see that there's this program where they go through this like reintegration kind of program. Let me see. Yeah. And he had to go through that. He's talking. These people come up to him and say, "Hey, you'll be doing pretty good things for the Republic. That's really kind of cool." And just like talking to him, seeing some people who would like, "Oh, I was about to be drafted, but who cares about that?" And like, I don't really care one side or the other. It's like, the Empire did horrible fucking shit and made multiple super weapons that killed planets. Like, it does make sense that there would be assholes out there. It's like, I don't care. Like, you got your rebel terrorist and you got your Empire with your weapons, and it's like, I don't care about either one. It's like, sure. Let's ask Alderaan about that, shall we? That ain't working. Let's wait and see about, like, the First Order at the end. Giant fucking battleships with the destructive capabilities of other super weapons. Yes, be careful about that. But I like seeing those aspects, and even Pershing is like, what the fuck is up with these people? And the thing is, we see that he has to wear this kind of pin and everything that he's gone through, and it's like, that's kind of a weird thing to do. I kind of understand it, but I would say that it would work against a kind of reintegration process with trying to get the Imperials reacclimated and decommissioned from, of course, the Commission kind of thinking that Palpatine and the Empire would probably introduce to their highly regimented, orderistic kind of thing going on. Like, you must follow orders kind of shit. So we see that he gets back to his place, and they've got their own housing that's kind of sequestered off. Again, something I'm like, that ain't kind of cool, man, New Republic. I kind of get it. You got them together with some certain kind of people. You're able to monitor them more effectively because you'd have to be careful because they might try a resurgence of the Empire, which, of course, comes up later on. But the thing is, that also comes up in kind of like the Legends kind of shit as well. But he gets brought over for a drink, and it's kind of cool seeing him shoot the shit. And we see Kane from Moff Gideon's ship talking to him, asking him what he misses, and he misses like these yellow ration biscuits or whatnot. It's like, oh, okay. So he pretty much goes back into his quarters, and then he hears a knock and opens up and sees a little Imperial box and finds out that it's biscuits. We see that his whole kind of job is archiving Imperial things to be pretty much destroyed. And the thing is, he could be very much better put to use to the New Republic. And that becomes a through line of like, he does want to help. And the thing is, people prey upon that and be like, oh, you want to help? What are you going to do? And he does. And like, he sees that these Imperial things are like usable tech. Like, why would you completely destroy and decommission it? And he's like, I don't make the rules, just do what you need to do. And he, of course, has this droid that asks him if he has any anger or resentment towards people, his job, the New Republic, or anything like that. He asks if he can continue his research. Now, granted, they do this a couple of sessions, which works. I mean, I'm okay with it because we're exploring this very fascinating aspect, at least to me. But I could definitely see why this would be, like, too repetitious and too kind of boring for other people. So that's why I'm like, I like this episode, but this is like, they really needed to integrate this better. So he's trying to figure out more things to kind of like help out. Kane keeps kind of pushing him as well, being like, hey, look at this. They go through this one kind of place, see like the tallest mountain on Coruscant, and it's just pretty much this rock that's barely above them, and he's like going to touch it, but like the droid's like, don't touch that shit. And she's like, hey, what do you want to do? You've got a lot of things you can help. What do you need? Like a mobile lab? And I was like, I know where to get one. And at first he's like, nah, I don't want to like push the rules and everything like that, which of course she then is like able to be like, hey, we got in trouble for following the rules and the orders that we were given, so maybe we should play outside of them. And it's like, it's interesting, the double-edging sword that they're kind of like balancing out here. It's like, okay. And of course he gets to his breaking point, goes with her. We see them kind of doing their kind of little espionage thing, taking off their usual kind of uniforms that identify them, their pins. They get onto this train without any kind of like ticket and whatnot, and they kind of get to the back and jump off, and they go to this Star Destroyer that's being decommissioned. So they go through, we see this kind of little bug thing, and we're like, okay, could that be something? No, not really. They get him to a mobile lab, and he's like, alright, I could do a lot of stuff with this. Now granted, the New Republic has pretty much said that his kind of cloning and genetic engineering stuff is not acceptable. Now granted, I understand because the clone armies, like the Grand Army of the Republic and what was going on with the clone troopers, that is a viable kind of concern. Now granted, if you pretty much have the things in place, you like, it's good to have rules against that and trying to figure out what can like balance and help people, because this doctor, because of what happened to his mother, he wants to help people, and he is trying to do that as best as he can. Now granted, he decides to trust the wrong person in Kane, as we see people trying to come for him, but she plays it that it was him, and that she throws him into the New Republic forces. And this is where it gets kind of interesting, because they're making it seem like it was him that was relapsing. They take him in to be recommissioned. He's like, no, that's a mind flayer. He's like, don't worry, we're only going to be colors. We're not going to like wipe your memories or anything. We're just going to kind of like help you into a happy place. And that's the thing. The New Republic ones, it's like, I wouldn't do that. That's crossing a moral line to me. But the thing is, we find out that it's not them that's being the worst off, because we then see Kane pretty much says, no, I want to stay here. They're saying that she's doing so good, and we see that she is either attempting to make sure that Dr. Pershing does not utilize his knowledge to help the New Republic, or is just a sadistic person who will find any kind of position of power that she can and will just fuck with people. Because she then turns the mind flayer up all the way, and it either, we don't know what's happened to Pershing. He's either potentially got his brain completely and utterly fried and can't do anything and is essentially dead, or he could be dead. And it really made me like, oh, fuck you, man. We'll see what kind of works out with her character. It's interesting because you see those kind of people who are like, act nice to people, those kind of, I would term her most sociopathic than psychopathic. Well, she could be a sociopath or a psychopath. And she just finds these things, and she didn't have to do this to Pershing. It's like, the cruelty and the violence of the act that she does to him to just fuck with him, and she's doing it under this facade that she's reformed and everything. It's like, damn, she's a nasty piece of work character, and it'll be interesting to see if this does anything. I would almost say that this would have been more of an interesting series of like Tales of the New Republic, where we're learning how the New Republic was formed and what happens in the aftermath of the fall of the Empire, and seeing these kinds of things. In an episode of The Mandalorian where we're following the Mandalorian and Mandalorian things and Grogu, it was just like, what? So that's where that part ends, and I really felt for Pershing, and I hope that he gets more of a better ending. But that's usually just me. So we'll see kind of what happens out there. We then continue on to the best part of the episode, and we see that they go to the convert, they fly in. Din is challenged and says, like, nah, you can't come in here. You don't have proof that you bathed in the living waters. Like, I brought proof. Well, let me do it. And I look at and they're like, who are you, Bo-Katan of Clan Kryze? And they're like, oh yeah, you asshole, kind of thing. Pretty much blaming her for the downfall of Mandalore. So they come in, and the armor asks for proof. He presents it, and evidently they have. I wish we'd kind of known this before, because I'm like, how the fuck are they going to prove it? And she dumps the water out, and it proves that it's from the living waters of Mandalore, and that he is redeemed. I was like, they got just a bucket of that? Now, granted, it does then present kind of like issues of like, why didn't they just like squirt bottle him, or like do a weird like kind of baptism spritz or whatnot? But I think the answer to that is the act of the pilgrimage itself, if that makes sense. Within these kind of religious kind of rituals, sometimes it is more the journey than rather the kind of end that is the most important aspect, because he went to Mandalore, he went to the Living Mines, he bathed himself in the waters, and then he came back and offered proof, rather than just them having a bucket of the living water there, not a bucket, but like a container of it, and showing that. So I get that does present some issues, but it also is like, it's a weird kind of culty kind of thing. So cults do weird, crazy kind of shit. So hopefully Din kind of understands that. But we learned that he hasn't removed his helmet. She also brings up that Bo-Katan brought him out of there, and doesn't bring up the Mythosaur yet either. And that she hasn't removed her helmet, and that she is redeemed as well. And then welcomed in and patted in on the clan. And the thing is, we focus on her a lot, and it's like, I wonder what her game is. This brings it up because she hasn't brought up the Mythosaur yet. Because she could have, like, now this cult knows that Mandalore can be used, so will they start a holy crusade or whatnot and do like what Death Watch did, or what's their goal? What is she going to do? Is she going to bring them together and try and take over and become the leader of Mandalore again? What will she do with Din? What will Din do? What's his objective? He's been redeemed. We're seeing that he is teaching Grogu to be a Mandalorian. What is going to be our driving kind of plot going forward? There's a lot of different kind of avenues that this could go, and that I'm interested in seeing, so we'll see how this kind of shakes out. Bo-Katan's motivations are what really interests me the most. Is she trying to utilize this to her best advantage and be kind of like ulterior motive, or is she actually starting to believe in this kind of cult, in the Mythosaur, in following the ways of the Children of the Watch, and seeing what kind of goes on? Will that put her in conflict with Din and Grogu? What's going to happen with that? Or, I don't know. It's like, these are the answers that I'm hoping to see, and really interested to see how this might dovetail also into Pershing and Kane as whatever's kind of going on. Because that one, at the moment, really does not slot in with the season. Most of the things that we've done have pretty much moved the plot forward. We'd had pretty much the quest. We've got the quest done and fulfilled. What's the next step? Where are we going next? And I'm excited to see. So those are my opinions on the episode. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also, like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.